middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives.
Hey, right. Come out. Right. Right. Circle left. Circle left.
Just stand still, huh?
Get ready. 1 o'clock. Good. 12. 5 to 3. I got mixed up.
There is no way that you could have been as bad at hockey as you are at golf.
All right, let's go. You like that, old man? You want a piece of me?
I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing.
Poof.
Come
that
on
hurts
down.
almost as much as watching our show.
Oh,
I think,
I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are
the Cinemaniacs.
Hi. I've still never seen that movie.
Oh my goodness,
Slappy
really?
Gilmore. Yeah. Not a fan of the Adam Sandler. Overall.
Overall, I'm probably not, but I've loved some of his early stuff. And
one day I'll see it. I'm sure the drive-in will show it one day.
50 First Dates is really clever, so.
I haven't seen that one either.
I gotta educate you.
You know what else I haven't seen?
What?
Half of what we're going to talk about
Probably
today.
that's about true. I've heard that.
I'll make it up on the back end.
Okay.
As I'm known to do in my private life. So, first up.
Yes.
Would you care to start since you've seen it?
I can, if we would like to do that. The O is back. Is she bigger than movies? That was one of my concerns going into it, but Oprah Winfrey and Reese Witherspoon and a whole bunch of other folks have to help a couple of kids find their scientist dad. He's been kidnapped, and you have to save the world. And the only way they're going to be able to do it is if they can figure out what's going on with this Wrinkle in Time.
Treat the family.
So I don't. I was on a radio show, somewhat locally, very famous, popular radio show. I won't give it a plug or anything like that. And the host asked me, "So, Tom, Wrinkle in Time," and I'm going, "Yeah."
What's that?
What about it? I had never heard of this, never read it. It was written in 1962, and apparently it's a hugely popular book. My older son never read it. My younger son never read it. My wife never read it. So this came completely out of the blue for me. But everybody and his brother is talking about it. So went into this. I didn't know what to expect. After seeing it, I did a little bit of research. This really is aimed, and folks, if you haven't read it, if you're one of the two people who hasn't read it, I really think this was aimed at preteens. The effects were very interesting. I went into it being worried that Oprah was going to be too big for the screen, and I think she is. But for the real target audience, kids aren't going to know Oprah, I don't think. And so I don't think they're going to be bothered by it. As an adult, I couldn't lose her, and this is not her fault. It's just she's so big.
That's
she's
what
Oprah.
I thought. Seeing the trailer, to me, she's the talk show lady.
Right.
She was in The Color Purple. She had been an actress for years.
Oh
but
yeah, absolutely.
At this point, she is who she is.
Right.
And she's a personality.
And I can't lose her. She's very much like, she's such a superstar. Reese Witherspoon, whom I love, I thought she was good. The supporting performances and everything were all fine. The kids were very good. So overall, for the target audience, which I do think it has to be like 8 to maybe 12-year-olds, I don't know, maybe 6 to 10, I'm not quite sure. I think it's going to be perfectly fine. There's lots and lots to look at. I thought the effects, although bordering on cheesy, fit the medium, fit the material. So overall, for what it wanted to be, particularly in that I knew nothing about it, I thought A Wrinkle in Time was okay. I wasn't crazy about it.
I did not see it.
Okay.
I was only going to have time to watch one new feature this weekend, and it was going to be that, but circumstances did not allow for it.
Well, there we go.
I will try to catch that. See, I'm doing my penance. I vow to you. I will try to catch that so that when we talk about this on video,
there you go.
I will have an opinion.
Sure.
Speaking of films I didn't see, let me give a crack at this introduction,
okay.
shall I? So we have the sequel to a film that was made a few years ago, maybe a decade ago. I never saw that one either. In the home invasion category, we have a family who is spending the night in a trailer park when masked thugs show up and try to invade their home. This is what happens when I look at the title, The Strangers Pray at Night.
Oh,
I was going to say it during the clip, but I'll say it now for their amusement.
Yes.
I don't really get off on movies like this.
No, well, you know.
I haven't seen it, so I can't say.
I didn't get a chance to see this one. I wanted to see this. We both like horror movies, but they look like they're not the kind, if it's jump out at you stuff, if it's cheap scares and thrills. The first one wasn't bad, and so that's all I was expecting. But anyway, as a public service announcement, Strangers Pray at Night is out there.
I would recommend a film entitled They, which I believe is a French film from late 90s, early 2000s, which is about a group of people who are in a house, and these young characters wearing hoodies whose faces you never see are tormenting them. And it was a really good dramatic thriller creep fest, kind of an indie thing. That's a movie that I did see, so that'll be one of the few that I talk about this week. Up next is a film that I didn't see featuring businessmen and/or criminals.
Yes, as a matter of fact, a pharmaceutical drug company coming up with really sweet kind of little drug everybody might want. But, it's expensive to produce around here. So you better take it south. You better head down to Mexico and get some things cooking down there. But there's going to be a little trade going back and forth that might not be what you want. Send your African-American friend who isn't really worldly wise down there. He might get kidnapped, and they might be going after the Gringo.
To equal the crisp, delicious flavor of hot popcorn that's bathed in real melted butter.
So, and I'm not getting down on this. I ultimately ended up enjoying this. I thought performances were real strong. If you're interested in seeing this based on the trailer, the movie is not nearly as funny as the trailer makes that to be. It's a very dark comedy. Primarily about, I forget the character's name, but the guy who goes down there and gets kidnapped. And it's all about how he finds out that Joel Edgerton and Charlize Theron are pulling one over on him. They're going to take all of this money and cut him out, basically fire him. So he puts on his own kidnapping and says he needs $5 million. And he has a couple of these Hispanic guys who run the hotel. They're working for him, and there's a pretty funny scene where he's on the phone after we've heard the kidnapping ransom call, and Edgerton and Theron are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We then see it replayed. We go back in time. I hate flashbacks. That's the F word for me that I can't say until after 10 is flashback. But so we see that play out again, and he's just sitting on the chair. We've seen this before too, but he's really good. Oh no, oh, and he's screaming and yelling, and these other guys are just beating stuff up on the. It was the scenes are pretty funny, but they're not laugh out loud. I can't remember if I literally laughed out loud. I snickered a lot, so I enjoyed it. This one might play much better at home because the laughs aren't big. It's much more plot twist kind of thing. Ultimately, I ended up liking Gringo, but it wasn't certainly the laugh riot that it makes you think it's going to be.
So a lighthearted, generally say a lighthearted crime caper?
Yeah, a lot of language, no nudity, some violence, but it's almost comic booky violence. It's not bad. Rated R basically for the language.
Okay, so there's a lot of language and there's a lot of graphic violence, but there's no nudity because that might be offensive.
Right, that could be bad.
Human body's a horrible thing. So speaking of going against the law, we have a film entitled Wouldn't You Like to Know? Here's a film featuring a bunch of people who have the ingenious plot to carry off a major heist during a major storm. And will they survive the hard rain during the Hurricane Heist?
Show starts in 8 minutes. Yum, yum.
Man, looks mega fake.
So how much are we ripping off? Much of the special effects are fake. The hurricane itself, there are going to be times where, okay, so the bad guys have finally got all the money on these 3 huge semis, and in the eye of the hurricane, they start driving out, and then the hurricane starts catching up on them, and it's just, frightening. I mean, I'm a tornado. I actually took a semester off on my sabbatical to tornado chase. Of course, didn't see anything. But, those fascinate me. And if it's at all true, and I understand that hurricanes have more punch, can do more damage, it was just terrifying, some of the imagery that they gave us.
That has to work really well in a theater. We always talk about theater
Right.
versus video. Although people at home, I guess, have good sound, but with a really good booming surround sound, that must
Right.
have been really to put you in the moment.
So that part was really very intense. The rest of it is, what movie are we ripping off now? It starts with a just direct ripoff of Twister. These two kids, they're there's a hurricane happening 20 years ago or something like that. Dad's driving and he tells the kids, oh, hurry up, and they run in the house and Dad gets killed, and so now the kids, one of them is a hurricane chaser, and that's just bad. They meet up with this woman who, the basic plot is these two brothers end up with a woman that they've known. It's not really clear, we're not really told, but it's implied that they know her from high school or something like that. She's gone off, there's something bad in her background that we never find out about, that she feels guilty about. But she works for the Secret Service or the Treasury, and so she's a guard. These guys come in and are going to steal all of this money that's going to be shredded. So $600 million that's been shredded there. So obviously there's some scenes that are pretty impressive when they go in and they open up the vault and, oh my God, look at all the money. That was pretty impressive. But it's all, you commented on how much the trailer looks like Fast and the Furious. It's a ripoff of that. It's a ripoff clearly of Twister. This one we've seen a zillion times. The characters aren't all that unique, and so ultimately, I mean, if you're crazy about effects and like The Day After Tomorrow, the horrible everything gets super cold and thing, I just go into those and just wanted to have a good time, just at a silly disaster movie.
I just want it to be fun, not totally stupid, and to be able to see what's going on.
This was fun. You could see what was going on. I think it bordered more on the totally stupid than the not stupid side.
Sometimes totally stupid's forgivable, too.
Right, I suppose so. But this one, so Hurricane Heist, I'll give like a 5. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't a complete waste of time.
I did not see it, but given enough time and movie pass options, I might give it a shot.
You may end up doing that.
For when we talk about it on video. Speaking of video, that's all we have to talk about in the theater. Not saying that's all we saw in the theater, that's all we have to talk about in the theater.
At least right now.
Yeah, if there's time, you don't know what you might hear coming out of these mouths, singular. So we have now that which you have. We thank our friends, first of all, how could I forget, at the Latches Theater in Brattleboro, Vermont, for sponsoring us and allowing us to see movies there that we then talk to you about. They're really cool and nice, old, pretty theater. We now talk about that which you can see on the home video format, platform, media channel of your choice, however you see movies that are not in the theater legally. This is what we're going to talk about. First up, what is first up? I look down now, hey, yeah, that one. We've heard of this movie. I've heard of it. I've actually seen it. Now I'll tell you about it. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call when the foreign worlds are kidnapping people and planets are having conflagrations and fisticuffs in arenas that may or may not have red dirt on them? I don't remember. Well, you call Thor Ragnarok.
Every cup tastes good as fresh perked.
Because it is fresh perked.
Oh, I like it better.
That played in this very building the other day.
Did it really?
We're located in the Keene Public Library, and our studio temporarily is next door to the auditorium where they run free movies. So last week Thor was playing, and I'm like, hey, that movie's really good. Which is to say that I thought that, personally, I've not been a fan of the Thor movies.
Yeah, nor have I.
I just don't get into them. And friends and I say that if you're trying to stay up on top of the entire Marvel universe, because it all interconnects, and you need to see them all for the Avengers movies to make total sense. The Thor movies are like homework. I have to watch another Thor movie so that I understand the next whatever movie.
Okay.
This is the first one of those I saw that I thoroughly enjoyed from like the opening second of this movie. And it opens with Thor imprisoned somewhere, and he's trying to sweet talk somebody, and it goes into this trailer gave me goosebumps when I first saw it. This is one of the few trailers I would watch every time it came up because I loved how they used Immigrant Song and how it was edited and how much fun it was. But I'm like, they just used the song in the trailer. Well, they actually use Immigrant Song in the movie. And again, it was like hair standing, it is right now as I talk about it. It was hair standing up on my arms because it was a fight scene where you could see what was going on. It was totally cool and badass. And it had a Zeppelin song playing under it. The whole movie is directed by, I cannot remember the director's name, but he did What We Do in the Shadows and Flight of the Conchords. He's a New Zealand director who does predominantly comedy, which is what this movie is. This movie is a comedy that has superheroes and action in it. It is also a buddy picture between Thor and the Hulk, which works pretty well and is pretty fun. I mean, part of me is always like every Marvel movie has to cram as many Avengers as they can into it, and can't anybody have their own movie? But it works really well in this one, and it's a lot of fun. the entire film takes place, my recollection, the majority of this film takes place on this other world that Thor has been captured or crash landed on, and he has to. It's basically Spartacus. He becomes a slave and he has to fight to stay alive and break out and all that. Jeff Goldblum is very funny as this guy who rules over this world. Gorgeous color. I thought this was thoroughly enjoyable from like frame one to the end. So if they make more Thor movies like this, I'm going to be excited about seeing more Thor movies. Whereas before it was like, here comes another Thor movie.
My issue with all of the Thor movies is the comedy. This is my fault. I grew up as a Marvel person, and I was never crazy about Thor. I was a Spider-Man, Fantastic Four kind of guy, but read the Thor comics. And my problem with this, and these movies are such crowd pleasers, so I'm sure if Marvel were for any reason to hear what I have to say in one ear and out the other, because they make so much money and they're so well received. But he's the god of thunder. He's the heir to the throne of Asgard, and he's cracking jokes left and right. And hey, I'll be here till Thursday. And it's just, and Hemsworth is good. I like Hemsworth, but you take this super powerful character and just make him a silly quipping character. I've always had problems with him.
I get that.
I did like Anthony Hopkins as Odin. He plays a rather serious role in this one, strangely enough, and I loved some of those scenes. Goldblum is fun. So in stepping back, I did think this was too long, once again. I thought you could have trimmed an easy 15, 20 minutes from this. Because it's all about, Ragnarok coming and it's going to destroy Asgard and it's just going to destroy Midworld.
Oh yeah, Kate Blanchett's in this movie, by the way.
Yes, she is.
I forget about that. She's really good in it.
She's terrific.
She looks amazing, and I don't mean that necessarily as a hubba amazing, which I do. But the costume and the makeup is just. It's like a comic panel, like in the best sense, coming to life.
So all that worked very well. My big problem was just that I don't think Thor should be a comedy guy. I think you could have made him, and you'd have to go back all of the movies that he's been in, much more serious, and in my opinion, reflective of what the original comic was. But I don't think the audiences would have enjoyed it as much.
My problem with the first two Thor movies was not that they weren't funny enough. I don't care if they're funny or not. I think it's the humor and the way this was made it work better for me. I'd be totally cool with dead serious Thor movies too. I just wasn't interested in those first two storylines and what happened in them.
Right.
Like, I wonder if at some point you can pull a Logan where you go stone cold serious with Thor. I don't know if
I'd
the
love
audience...
to see that.
I wonder if the audience wants Marvel movies to be light and fun.
Right.
And if you try to go dead serious, if it might not be successful.
Again, summer is the light and fun, just check your brain at the door moment, and I'm not saying that in a negative sense. I love all the action, adventure, and superhero movies. It just, for me, I probably went into it with the wrong idea because, I know him from work. It's not work, it just gets too lighthearted. Now that got a huge laugh, so I think they don't make the Thor movies for me. They don't make the Spider-Man movies for me anymore. They don't make Iron Man movies for me anymore because I hate Iron Man. Sorry, but Captain America, I'll be watching Captain America when it comes back out. But yeah, you're right that these are all build up to the, $500 million first weekend for Infinity Wars?
Probably.
It's going to be unbelievable this summer.
So you kind of wish Thor was more of like a manly Falcon?
No, I think he should be much more sensitive and serious. Maybe pursue the arts, much as our young heroine does in our next Academy Award nominated winning. I don't believe so, but
nominated. It's an honor just to be nominated.
Certainly, it is an honor just to be nominated, and they all think that. Lots of nominations going out to this story about a young California girl who is battling with her mother constantly. Not only does mom not like that she isn't doing well in school, and she has no ambition, she also doesn't like that she changed her given name to Ladybird.
Wash, make it look like new. Watch it in the car wash that lets you see right through.
Little careful editing in that trailer because rated R for language quite distinctly.
Cussetation situation?
Yes, a little bit. But I wasn't nearly as crazy about this as everybody was. I thought it was very well made. For me, this was a slice of life moment, and I'm looking for, particularly for art, that everybody holds up there as being just the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm looking for a point, and this one for me didn't really come to a point. But ultimately, in many respects, this is a performance movie, and I thought performances everywhere were just unbelievable. Just terrific performances by Laurie Metcalf, who plays the mom, by Lady Bird. Dad was really good. Everybody in this was really wonderful. They have some terrific moments. It was interesting that Greta Gerwig was the director, and she was hailed as being the only female nominee for directing for this year, and it's been a while since we've seen anybody, a woman, nominated for that. And this is really stupid and picky, but there are a couple of moments. Lady Bird meets up with this boy that she's broken up with, and he comes to her for a condolence moment. There's that. There are two other scenes where, and this is super picky, and if you've seen it or if you haven't seen it, whatever, but normally, you're in a tight moment, and you'd be in tight, and she pulls back, and it's a very wide shot, and I just thought that was kind of odd. For some reason, that kicked in on me. I don't know why I'm saying this, because ultimately I liked Lady Bird a lot, primarily because performances were just spectacular. And you commented off air, and I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder. When the Oscars came up and you see all of these people in the same shot, it's kind of like, how do you pick who gets the award? Because everybody was so great.
I mean, as much, I'll repeat what I said off air, not for your benefit, because you've heard it once. Speaking of the Oscars and not this film briefly, there were moments where you see everybody who's in contending, and people were like, it wasn't a great year for movies, and they don't make good movies anymore. And I'm like, how do you pick which was the best of these five really good movies?
Right.
Everything isn't great. Everything isn't always great and can't be, because the stuff we remember that were great from the past were exceptions to the rule.
Right.
If everything was great, we wouldn't think anything was great. That makes no sense, but I'm kind of tired. I really liked Lady Bird a lot. This is a trailer I'd seen a lot at the Alamo going there, and it piqued my interest. And I'm not gonna lie, because they used my favorite Monkey song as we go along in the trailer. Huge amount of goodwill. I mean, you're gonna work to make me not like the movie, but I thought it was wonderful. You liked most of the characters, which isn't a prerequisite, but people were relatable. They seemed like very real people, and the kind of people you might know, or experiences that you might have had something similar growing up. Sure. And you say slice of life, and I've used that almost more as it's a descriptor, and sometimes it's not a good thing to me. To me, slice of life is you spend a little time in somebody's world, and when it ends, you're like, why did I just watch that? I didn't feel like that was the case for this. I felt that there were story arcs, there was forward momentum in the lives of these people. Lady Bird, self-titled Lady Bird, was not the same at the end as she was in the beginning. There'd been some growth and progress there. But it is a very small film. It's not somebody hanging off a semi off a bridge. It's not somebody driving a semi through a hurricane. It's not ridiculous. It is absolute real life. It's a girl who's awkward, who's not happy in her little world with her friends and family, and feels like she belongs somewhere else. And will that going somewhere else solve her problems, or are the problems all in her head that she needs to work out? So I loved it. When I think about we never did a best worst of last year because we just didn't have time. But when I put together for fun, I posted it on our Facebook page, or maybe I didn't. I posted it somewhere. We have a Facebook page. You should go there. We post things that you don't hear on the show. Lady Bird was like the top for me. If not number one, it was pretty close, because when I think back of everything I saw, Thor was a ton of fun, but it didn't really move me in any way. It was just fun. But this was one that really kind of worked on me in a good way.
I think Princess Diana could take Lady Bird, though.
You think so?
Yeah.
Lady
Wonder
Bird
Woman,
Johnson.
number one for me.
Oh, Wonder Woman number one?
Yeah.
I like Wonder Woman a lot.
Okay.
We were talking about that. I was talking about that at home. We got time. Why not? I was so big fan of the Linda Carter Wonder Woman growing up as a kid.
Wasn't, but yeah.
I was the right age.
Okay.
She was Linda Carter as
I
Wonder Woman.
Yes.
And so they're going to make a new Wonder Woman. I'm like, how do you even come close to Linda Carter as Wonder Woman? And I saw the movie. I'm like, oh, you hire her. That's
right,
what
exactly.
you do. You just have Gal Gadot.
You do it that way.
Yeah, that was great. And every movie that Wonder Woman, the current incarnation of Wonder Woman, has been in all these other DC movies, she is always the best thing about it.
Absolutely.
I'm like when she appeared in Superman versus Batman, I'm like, can we just have the Wonder Woman movie tomorrow?
Right, yeah.
Can we cut out the rest and just give me a 10-minute short? Anyway, we're talking about everything except the movies in question here. Up next, is it my turn? Yes, it is. Up next is a truer to life than I expected tale of how Charles Dickens came up with the classic A Christmas Carol, told in a way that it is inoffensive to all who might watch it, in The Man Who Saved... No. The Man Who Invented Christmas.
Comes from Mars.
This is one of those things where I feel like they should hold back the video release until next December.
Oh, okay,
Because
right.
who wants to watch a Christmas movie, in March?
Because it's going to take, because you were really high on this when this first came out in theaters.
I was really
I
happy
hadn't
with
had a
this.
chance to see it. So I watched it based on your recommendation, and strangely enough, you were right. It's kind of hard to believe, but no,
Hey.
he was right. This was really a wonderful, fun look at probably, is it real or not? I don't know. You can hit your website and find out how true was it about Dickens' storyline.
Circumstances of his life that are portrayed are correct.
Right.
I don't think he was talking to characters
You don't
that
think so? Okay.
showed up.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was a fun. It was really fun and well done. As you said, good for everybody. Once again, I thought it was a little bit long. You could have trimmed a bit of it, but performances were fine. It's fun to see some of these actors that we've seen throughout the years in smaller roles. So yeah, I ended up thinking, even though it's got a long title, The Man Who Invented Christmas was really lots of fun.
This was one that, based on the trailer, I dreaded having to go see.
Okay.
I go back to the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Hey, it's Indiana Jones, and it's a weekly TV series, but it's not with Harrison Ford, but it's produced by the right people. Let me give it a shot. Oh, it's him in Chicago in the teens or 20s, and he bumps into a young Al Capone. Here's my friend Al Capone. You got a Basti scar in your face there, kid. Oh, get it away. I thought it was going to be one of those where it's like, and that's how he got this idea, and that's how he got that idea. And to a degree it is, but a lot of this is about the actual realistic circumstances of how this book came to be, why it was written, how it was written, a bit about Dickens' life growing up in his circumstances. And I believe it is, from what I've done, the whole History versus Hollywood page that I like. I looked at it, and it's pretty accurate. I mean, who knows what people said to each other and where he really got the ideas, but it is done so well, and it is wholesome, not to a fault. It is just one of those movies where you think about it afterwards and you're like, wow, there was nothing, like, a kid could watch this easily. I don't think a kid would want to watch this, but they could. Really strong cast, really nicely shot. Not very grandiose in how it's shot, but I thought it was really good. Like, this is kind of a movie for grown-ups that anybody could watch. I don't know, again, if anybody really wants to watch it right now. It feels like they want to hold on to it till Christmas time.
Yeah, it definitely does have a holiday feel.
But it was, and this is one of those things where, we feel we have to go see these to talk about them on the show. And sometimes you develop a little attitude going in, and it being not the bad movie I thought makes it that much better in my eyes. Right. But I quite enjoyed The Man Who Invented Christmas. Speaking of a man who invents movies every third weekend.
Yeah, basically every month. Here's one coming out. The Woodman is back. He's going to give us a tender little story about a middle-aged couple who's running an amusement park. Looks suspiciously like Coney Island. You might think so if you've been there. And the young man who comes in to turn their life upside down and all around in the event that they get to run the Wonder Wheel.
Wide open style that really lets you have it. Schmidt, Big Mouth.
Is there a lot of green screen in this movie?
Not a lot.
A lot of the shots in that trailer, it looked like they were phony backgrounds.
And that does kind of stand out, at least in theaters. I haven't seen this on video, but in the theater, that kind of stood out, and I was kind of wondering why.
Maybe they have to recreate that location. It's easier than having, hoping for a sunny day in the 50s all the time.
Right, exactly.
1950s.
Often, and obviously Woody Allen, one of the greatest directors alive today, but in my opinion, based on previous work from a long time ago.
His older, funnier films?
I've been really tired of a lot of his newer stuff. He cranks it out, and that's good, and I'm glad he's still working. But so I kind of was worried about going into this one. And I thought this one really hit on all cylinders, if you're a Woody Allen fan. Lovely to look at most of the time. Some of the effects did kind of stand out. But once again, solid performances, a nice little story about this little couple and how you're kind of, clearly the wheel is a metaphor of how life goes around and around and around, and it can be the same unless something new comes into it. And I thought I liked Timberlake. I thought he was does a good job in performances, and when he's a dramatic actor, I think he works well. I thought Wonder Wheel was one of Allen's best in the last decade or so.
I haven't really seen much of his work. I followed his movies for the longest time because they were easy to see locally.
Right.
This, I don't think the last couple of Woody movies have played anywhere near here
Right.
Near meaning somewhere I can walk to.
Right. It's the kind of thing like a Colonial might hold.
And it might be because he cranks out so much. I'm like, well, if I miss this one, there'll be another 2 or 3 before
Right,
I
next
get a
month.
chance to see another one. So I did not see this. But it looked pretty from that trailer.
Yeah.
Like very colorful, which is, he's not known for much of a visual flair in his films. It's all about the dialogue.
Yeah, and it's performance-driven, character-driven for Woody.
So, yeah, I didn't see it. That's all we saw in the theater and on video this week.
You saw more, though. Did you not?
Well, I kind of did. We have time? Should I? Should I? Applaud. And if you applaud, Tinkerbell will live.
Yes,
and I'll talk
exactly.
more. This weekend I spent at the, first time I've gone, the Monster Mania convention in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's been going on for 15 years, I guess.
Okay.
And the drive-in that I work at, the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Laheyton, Pennsylvania, decided to get a booth there because we show a lot of horror films, and that's predominantly a horror convention. And we decided it was a great way to raise awareness because a lot of our audience comes from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and it's within driving distance. And we offer camping on the lot, so people who come a long way don't have to go home afterwards or pay for a hotel. So I did that, ostensibly. Okay. Now, part of these, if you've never been to a convention, the horror conventions, it's like-minded people getting together. It's vendors, which is technically what we were, people selling T-shirts and props and artwork and movies and all kinds of stuff. And then it's celebrity guests. Sometimes it is celebrities with those finger things in the air, and sometimes it's people that you've heard of. And what that world has become, for better or probably worse, is you are paying for a celebrity autograph. Right. Depending on who it is, the rate changes. And you used to be able to pick a picture with them too, but now for a lot of them you have to pay to take a picture with them with your own camera. Or they do these things called photo ops where you pay a lot of money and it's the celebrity in front of a backdrop and it's a professional photographer. And you get a nice
I can't
8x10.
imagine paying extra just so that you could meet somebody and get his autograph. I'm making fun of myself.
Yeah, you never did that, did you?
Nope.
I saw that guy.
And not doing it soon either.
And one of the people there he brings up was John Carpenter,
yep,
who is an icon. And a lot of people were there for him. At one point, the line to meet John Carpenter was a 6-hour wait. Jeez. That's you getting somewhere in the morning, and that is your entire day just waiting. But here's the scary thing, too.
And I used to criticize, these famous people who, just get paid for this. But that means he has to sit there, too.
Oh, yeah.
For the whole thing.
I mean, it's revenue generation for these people. They make a lot of money doing this, and that's.
But it's not easy. Was kind of my point.
It's not a secret how this whole thing works. So I mean, you're paying for it. But anyway, John Carpenter was there. 6 men who played Jason in the various Friday the 13th movies, which is damn near all of them. Kathleen Turner was there. Joe Pantoliano, Joey Pants from The Matrix, and many, many, many things was there. Very cool and a big draw were all of the kids from the current version of It.
Cool.
So the entire kid cast was there, and you could get your picture taken with all of them at great expense. And it was interesting to see the demographics because John Carpenter was a mix of ages. It was mostly 20-somethings and up, male and female, pretty evenly split. For everybody else, it was a good mix. But for the It kids, it was almost exclusively like teenage and preteen girls.
Right.
And that was
really,
it was very interesting. So I walked through the area where they did that. The Chiodo brothers were there, which were the guys who did the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. They directed it and did the effects and all the character design. They did Large Marge and the dinosaur and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And they've done a lot of things over the years. So I got to meet them briefly. A friend of mine has a screen-used critter from Critters 2 that had been run over by a car or a truck in the movie and flattened. So he had this flattened critter that he had them sign and authenticate. So we get to chat with them. That was cool. And various people from Tim Curry was there.
Really?
And people so you saw a lot of Rocky Horror people. People go in costume as well. People make amazing costumes. There was a girl there, lady, who had, you remember the movie The Stuff that we reviewed, the Larry Cohn movie? She went as The Stuff. So it was a life-size container of this yogurt, and it was really, really cool. So we went, and there was a panel discussion with the 6 Jasons, which was like a 6-way comedy routine. It was amazing. Carpenter did a Q&A. Not a big fan of Chevy Chase, apparently, was John Carpenter. I cannot repeat before 10 p.m. what he said about Chevy Chase, but that was very interesting.
What was in his interaction with Chevy Chase?
Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Oh, my goodness,
which is a much lesser-known Carpenter movie, which is actually kind of fun. Chevy Chase in kind of a Cary Grant type of role.
I remember that.
Unusual film. So there's all kinds of things that go on. Apparently, because of the large number of major guests that were there, they sold out. Like the fire marshal would not let people in the building. There were too many people in the building. It was insane. I've never seen anything like it. And people who have been going for a decade said the same thing. Luckily, I was at our booth most of the time. I took one stroll through to see what it was like, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay behind the booth where I have elbow room. But it was a big success for us. It was obviously a big success for the organization. I'm not sure how they're going to deal with that going forward.
Right.
But it was fun, and I got to see some celebrities. I saw Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss was there. I saw him from a distance. It was a lot of fun. So that's why I didn't have anything that I had to talk about movie-wise, is because I was doing that all day. I was able to peel out in my car to get to the Alamo Drafthouse in Yonkers to see Animal House last night.
Okay.
So do you have any kind words to say about Animal House? Have we ever reviewed Animal House on the show?
It's, yeah.
1978 comedy with John Belushi, Tim Matheson, and many more.
It's a great one to do the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game, because
Kevin
he's
Bacon's
in it, yeah.
first film, I believe.
I think you're probably right, yeah.
So they do this once in a while. They showed it on film, which not a lot of places can or do anymore. Print looked beautiful, felt like you were watching an opening week. And it was hosted by Joe Bob Briggs, who used to do, certain people remember him from Monster Vision on TNT. Before that, he had Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater on Movie Channel and wrote books. And he lives in the New York area, so he'll come and he'll introduce movies and give facts, and at the end he'll do the drive-in totals like he used to do. And it made me just giddy and dreamlike happy seeing him do that live, because I saw him do it so many times on TV as a kid. And it was a good crowd. There was a handful of people who'd never seen it before. So you got that really great laughter of somebody who is seeing the horse have a heart attack in Dean Wormer's office for the first time and all that. It was pointed out how non-PC that film is now.
Oh my goodness.
If you view it through modern eyes,
sure.
I think some people would not get some of the humor and think that the film is perhaps sexist or racist more than the characters are.
Right.
It was joyous to see a film that was that raucous without being overtly gross like most comedies try to be now. I mean, there are puke jokes and pee jokes and other stuff in that movie, but you don't necessarily see it or wallow in it. It's just the idea. Whereas now I feel like people literally would be swimming in those fluids for a not very legit laugh.
Right.
There was a ad for this movie called, I guess the title officially is Blockers, that's coming out, which has John Cena in it, and they played this before the movie, and I've seen the trailer at Keene Cinemas, and it just looks like another putrid, moronic, idiotic, gross-out comedy.
Okay.
And it was interesting in my mind to weigh Animal House versus that, because in its day, Animal House was seen as gross and crude and lowbrow, and this is shameful stuff, and you watch it now, and it's just laugh out loud funny. No matter how many times I've seen it, I was just doubled over at times with that movie, and how great the cast in that movie is.
All sorts of excellent.
Thinking about some of the other things these people went on to do. And
Karen Allen, Donald Sutherland, Jim Belushi,
Peter Riegert,
or John Belushi, and
John Vernon is great in that. It goes on and on. Tom Hulse, who went on to be in Amadeus and other things, and Animal House. Nominee. If you've never seen Animal House, that was a movie for me. It was Animal House, Caddyshack, and Blazing Saddles were like the trinity of movies I used to see on Channel 56 and 38, the Boston independent stations, and they would have to edit them for TV.
I think only half of Animal House would be aired.
So I watched them many times edited and thought they were amazing.
Right.
And then when I finally was able to start renting movies, I would rent them on tape, and it was a whole other experience.
I bet, yeah.
I never knew there was a candy bar scene in Caddyshack until I rented it. I never knew what John Belushi saw through the window at the top of the ladder until I rented Animal House. The scene in Blues Brothers with the nun. Why did she get so angry at them when they were in her office?
They cut that? That's interesting.
All the profanity wasn't there.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
I guess you're up the creek. Why is she mad about that?
Right.
Anyway, I saw Animal House and it was great. That's the lesson learned here. In lieu of watching the first 4 movies I was supposed to watch, I watched a movie I've seen 100 times and I loved it again. Do you have any news, views, or other opinions? Oh, okay. Well then, I'm Mark.
I'm Tom.
And we are
the Cinemaniacs.